All right, good morning, everybody. It's 10:30 a.m. Hold up, let me slide in here. Hi there. Oh gosh. All right, it's 10:30 a.m. It's time for Saturday morning breakfast. The day is grab my mouse. The day is July 11th, 2020. If you joined us last week, that means you made it through another week here, which is a great accomplishment. But thank you for joining me this morning for Saturday morning breakfast. Of course, it wouldn't be Saturday morning breakfast without breakfast. So let me show you what I got here for breakfast today. Nothing special, just a little 2-egg omelet. I tried to go with like French omelet style. I don't know if I'd say I was successful or not, but that's what I was going for. So in this case, it's the thought that counts, I think. I think a lot of things. All right. Moving on, my guest today, he was with me at Florida State University. He's a trumpet player from New Orleans is where he's residing now. But he went to FSU with me. After that, he pursued his master's at Michigan, I believe. And he is gracing us this morning with his presence. I'm going to unmute him and bring him out here. This is Ricio Fruge. What's up, Reese?
What's going on, bro? How you feeling?
Oh, I'm doing good this morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm great.
Fantastic. What you got for breakfast?
Let me show you what I got. So I got some savory grits. So I got grits with some cheese and green onion, and I have some sausage on there. The rest of the sausage I'm going to eat later, and a cup of broccoli.
Man.
Also a cup of coffee, of course.
Of course. All right. Well, that's an impressive breakfast. Is that like, are you on a diet plan for, like, I know you're big in on like health and working on your physicality and being healthy. Is that like a planned thing, or do you just really
it's
like
a part of it.
Yeah.
It's been a more recent breakfast that I've been having to get around 40 grams of protein and 40 grams of carbs and a bunch of fiber with the broccoli. So I mean, it's a part of it. It's been about a week since I've been using this particular breakfast, but I've had variations of that one for a while.
Yeah. Well, that looks super good. Yeah, I feel like my breakfast maybe pales a little bit in comparison, but that's all right. I'm okay with that. All right, well, cool. Ricio, I'm going to let you give yourself a little more in-depth introduction for things that I missed. But for those that aren't familiar with you, who is Ricio Fruge?
What's going on, everybody? I am Ricio Fruge. I am from Jacksonville, Florida. And like John said, I went to Florida State University for my undergrad, and I went to Michigan State for my grad school studies. I currently live in New Orleans, and yeah, he said Michigan. I want to clarify. I went to Michigan State. There's a huge thing. Think about saying Florida versus Florida State. Oof. So
yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, sorry. I apologize for getting that wrong. Thanks for checking me.
It's all good. I just want to make sure people didn't leave thinking I was a part of the Wolverine community. I just released my first mixtape and a single from that first mixtape. It's called Family Dinner Mixtape, and I released a single called Tom Brown's Boat Dock. It's kind of a play on words of different parts of my life and my father and my father-in-law, like their names. We can go into detail more about that later, but I just released a single. I've been living in New Orleans for 8 years now, and I've played with several hundred bands. I think I counted. I probably got around 200 since I've lived here. I'm currently a member of the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra, and I have my own band, Ricio and Reese's Pieces. So funk and original music-based group. I actually use the term post disco groove music as the description of how that music works. and if you listen to the single, which is available on iTunes and Apple Music and Spotify and all the other ones. I had no idea there was so many platforms to release music on, but there's like 15 to 20 of them. So if you can't find it, then you just probably didn't try. But if you listen to that song, you'll hear how the sound of a post-disco groove music original song would sound, and that's it's just it's a nice little bop. So just check it out, and if you do check it out, let me know what you think. What else? I'm married to Emily Fredrickson. I think she might be on the schedule for one of these shows soon, so that's pretty cool. She also went to Florida State with us. And I have a YouTube channel. Well, I have two YouTube channels. I have one that's Ricio Fruge, and I also have one that's the Trumpet Studio, which is more aligned with my pedagogical approach to being on the internet. And I have lots of different ways that I approach that. And part of it is that I approach talking to a band director about being a brass player. So, for instance, if they're a woodwind teacher and they're responsible for teaching a whole bunch of brass students, I give like a more like, a more advanced or more adult-like conversation about how the instrument works and the things that would make a better brass player that they may not have gotten from their time period of or their semester of playing a brass instrument in music education school. And so I approach it from that perspective. And also recently I just started a series of 10 trumpet players that you should know from each region. The first one I released was, what group was it? Northeast? Yeah, Northeast. So I did Northeast first, and I have 7 other ones that I'm going to do. Northeast does not include New York, but I talk about 10 trumpet players who are living that you should know, who are active. And I put an emphasis on living because I find that most of the time when people have dialogue about playing trumpet or about music history, we get in the place where we only talk about history. And I wanted to make sure and direct people towards people who are living, who might be a mile away from their house, maybe 100 miles from their house, and celebrate those people and their new developments and new techniques. Celebrate them while they're living, because they are living legends, basically. So I mean, I wanted to direct people towards that. And I have the next one's coming out on Tuesday, and that one's going to be for the Midwest. And the Midwest is stacked full of trumpet players, so that one's going to be a jam-packed episode. So yeah, I play trumpet, I write music, I have a YouTube channel, just released some singles. That's a good bit about me for my professional life.
Yeah, man. Cool. That was a good bit. There's a lot there that we're going to cover. I think the first thing we'll do, we're going to listen to that track, the single Tom Brown's Boat Dock. Before we get into it, though, I just wanted to get just a couple trumpet-specific questions out of the way. Cool. So what is your go-to setup, your horn and mouthpiece?
So I currently am using a box Strat, the run-of-the-mill box Stradivarius, and I'm using the Bobby Shoe lead mouthpiece, and I've been using that for about 6 months now, and I feel good about it. I transitioned from playing more of a large Lawler trumpet they're handmade out of Tennessee, and I played on that for maybe 10 years or so. And I switched maybe 2 years ago to just playing the Strat, and I just updated my setup to playing on the Bobby Shoe lead mouthpiece. I bought the lead and the jazz. I think I've been playing the lead more, but I found that I was trying to give more of a balance of the naturally dark sound that I produce with the efficiency of the mouthpiece that can allow me to have more of a substantial range.
Yeah, I follow. I'm not super into how trumpet mouthpieces work, but I imagine it's.
I can understand why.
I imagine it's the same. It's all the same thing of finding your sound.
Yeah.
There's no big difference. All right, personal top 5 trumpet players. Who would those be?
All right, so I'm going to go down the route of choosing people who are living, because that's part of my message and my intention these days. So I'm going to mention my top 5 living trumpet players. So that doesn't exclude me having like favorite trumpet players who are no longer with us. Obviously, I'm hugely impacted and a fan of Mr. Roy Hargrove, who we lost 2 years ago. But I'm just going to stick to trumpet players that that are alive. So number 1 is Sean Jones. I'm kind of a disciple of his. I mean, I've been following his stuff since I graduated high school, and I don't think I've missed anything that he's put out in all those years. So Sean Jones, Keon Harold. Keon Harold has a great album that he released about a year ago. I think it's called Musician. I believe that's the name of the album. But man, it's a monster when it comes to being expressive and delivering a message. And he was delivering a message that we all need to hear now. He was delivering that a year ago, and I think people were really buying into that idea because it was so fresh, the idea, and the music that he was playing. So I want to mention him as number 2. I mean, these aren't ranked in a particular order, but these are the 5. Then I have Jason Palmer. Jason Palmer is he is a freak on the trumpet. If you have not heard him play, please go look up Jason Palmer. I think his Instagram stuff is Pogo. I know all these people's like Instagram names now because I've looked them up for the YouTube channel on the Trumpet Studio. But yeah, he's a monster, Jason Palmer. He lives in Boston, or in the Boston area. Mr. Terrence Blanchard. I mean, I can't leave Terrence Blanchard off the list because he's a huge impact on like my entire person as a musician. I studied film scoring for a long time, and like him playing trumpet at the amazing level that he does, have to include him. And also New Orleans connection. And I'm not being political. I've seen so much and studied so much of the last person that I just can't leave them off the list, and that's Wynton Marsalis.
I got you. No, I don't think there's. I mean, I know there's a lot there now, but no, you can't. You know, I think it would be foolish to leave that one out if it was, you know, an influence, right? Of course. All right. And then what is one of your favorite albums?
One of my favorite albums of all time. I'm going to go with the keep it simple on this one because it's something that changed my life. And so yeah, Roy Hargrove's RH Factor. I can't go without making sure that people have heard that, because he changed the game for everybody with that, but he also grabbed me as a person who didn't grow up necessarily listening to jazz. He grabbed me as a person who grew up listening to hip hop and R&B, and I didn't know my personal voice in music as a classical trumpet player in school, and maybe I did play in jazz band, but I didn't have a voice or an identity necessarily until I heard RH Factor, and RH Factor really just it made my brain work in ways that I didn't understand, and I think I have to give that album credit for so much of my life.
Yeah, that's a great album. I was actually just recently re-listening to RH Factor, and all right, I want to play your single because it also is, when I listened to it for the first time, RH Factor was the first thing that came to mind. It's like super reminiscent of the like whole vibe that's going on there.
Yeah.
And I really dig it. So I'm going to play this. I'm going to put this shot of outside. This is like right outside the window of the room I'm in. So it's a nice morning. I think the heat index today is supposed to get up to like 103 in Tallahassee.
Ugh.
Ooh, yeah, right? It's a good thing we're, trying to stay inside and quarantine, I guess, because, man, it's rough. Bart, all right, this is Tom Brown's Boat Dock. This is Ricio's most recent single, and, I think everybody's going to enjoy this. my my own monitor just shut off. So I thought the track cut out, but it didn't. It kept going. All right, let me get Ricio back here because that's a hot track, and I think it is about time that you release some of your own music. But who all was on that track with you?
Oh, thanks, bro. I appreciate that. We had AJ Hall, OG from Florida State. He was playing drums on that one. John Maestas, he's a guitar player that I work with almost as much as I work with Joe in New Orleans, to be honest. And Max Moran on bass. He's a Anoka grad, and he's like played with everybody. If you listen to basically anything artistic and new coming out of New Orleans the last 10 years, he probably was the bass player on it. And Shea Pierre, the homie, fantastic piano player. I believe he went to Oberlin and was a part of that circle. So a lot of those cats from Oberlin know him, but he also is from New Orleans. Yeah, and myself. That was the personnel.
Yeah, man, super. Man, that's a dope track. That's a great track. But just as a reminder for everybody, if you want to find that track, you can search either the title Tom Brown's Boat Dock. Like Ricio said, if you have trouble finding it, you're probably I don't know what you're doing, but it's should be available on everything. If you got iTunes, you can find it on there. That's where I found it. Yeah, any streaming service. Please check that out because it's a great track by Ricio, and it also helps support him. And all just everything. It's good music. Check it out. All right, so you mentioned the trumpet studio. So I wanted to play a little clip from one of your episodes that I watched, and this was I think it was the Northeast, the one that you were talking about. So this is just a little clip of this. I think that I like this idea of like digging up those regional players and bringing them, out of that regional area and bringing their name into your own circle that you are in contact with. But here's this clip from the trumpet studio. Pull this up here.
For Hartswick, I actually last name Jennifer Hartswick. Have you ever heard of her?
I haven't heard of her.
She has been on the scene with a bunch of like some of the I guess maybe jam band or like some of those road acts. Like I feel like you've seen her in something, but just she plays in sections a lot, right?
Okay.
So yeah, Jennifer Hartswick. I actually hit her up and she said she was happy to be a part of it. So a quick little clip of her playing. I don't personally know her though. Just I found her doing like a northeast search of trumpet players.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
that's sweet. Yeah, her attack was crazy. Like she just came in with wow. Yeah.
All right, yeah. So we get the general idea, behind the show is highlighting those regional players that are just super great. I mean, you heard Jennifer there, and she obviously has a lot to say, and she's got some good stuff to say. What's I mean, I guess I can imagine what the process is of finding these regional players, but what is the actual process that you're going through to like dig up these great players in these regions?
So first and foremost, what I do is I made a master list, right? And I knew I was going to break it down into different regions. And as I made this huge list, I mean, I think I got up to like 150 to 200 trumpet players that I could think of off the top of my head that were like great people that people should know about. And so I made that list and I broke it down into places like, Northeast, Southwest, South Central. And so what I realized is that if I only used where they are based, then I'd have one area that was like just oversaturated people, and I couldn't include it because I made a rule that I would keep it to 10 people. So like there's 10 people I choose. That's a reasonable amount of people to check out and listen to. And so like I made sure and stick to that. I mean, I do have an honorable mention thing, but that's kind of like just a list because I don't want to leave all these people out because, once I see that there's 15 trumpet players who are like amazing, that's not on the list, I want to have a way to acknowledge them a little bit, but like 10 will be featured, 10 I'll talk about. And so what I did was I made that database, broke it down, found out where people were from versus where they were living. And if they spent a substantial amount of time and like may have just recently moved, I would lump them into a certain...
Oh man. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, what a mess. Of course. Oh, wow. Bear with me real quick.
Vieja culia, vieja paloma, culia, vieja, 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 puta, vieja culia, vieja paloma.
Yo, that shit was fucking hilarious, bro. Comment down below, bro.
Dame desayuno hoy que sea visto. Sabes que en la cama hay
Almost. We're almost there. Oh my gosh. All right. So I guess I'm going to put the waiting room back on. And that way, I guess, bad on me for leaving it open, I guess. Cool. All right. Back in it. Boy. All right.
I'll be the first to say that is hilarious. And so if you can't find humor in that, you're taking life too seriously. That's funny.
That was great. I wasn't expecting that. All of a sudden, like I'm keeping an eye on like the participants, and I saw these names dropping in. And I was like, okay,
yeah.
A couple people. That's cool. And then there was just more and more, and then all of this junk started flowing in. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
That's hilarious.
That's funny. I don't. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'm speechless. Sorry, I gotta get back on.
No, it's all good.
Back
I
on.
I can
on track there.
back
Yeah.
to what I was talking about. It's all good. That was funny. I mean, it's a part of like doing like life on the internet, man. That's just how it works. Like, there's so many opportunities for like stuff like that to happen, and like it's funny. Like, there's nothing not funny about that. So yeah. Anyway, I was talking about the process of choosing who's on the list. And so I wanted to make sure to separate into those specific areas and balance it out by using where people were from and where they're based, or if they spend a significant amount of time in that area. So, for instance, someone like Marcus Printup lives in New York, but he's from Georgia, and he's representative of the Southeast. So like I would choose to use somebody like Marcus Printup as a representative of the Southeast versus using him as a New York cat, because the New York cat list is going to be like, it's going to be huge. So much so that I didn't even give that a region. I gave it a New York category. It's like New York is here, then that's Northeast. So I separated those two. And so after I did the list of people that I personally could think of off the top of my head, and unfortunately, there were several people I forgot. But I felt stupid every time it happened. But I'm not stupid. I felt bad that I forgot them. But like I realized that that's just the nature of the game. The game trying to create a database this large that people are going to slip. And so I even say in the videos often, I'm like, yo, I probably forgot somebody. Whoever I forgot, I didn't intentionally do it. It wasn't malicious. Drop their name in the comments, and I make sure to make that a point. But that was how I generated the most balanced list I can find. So the list is done. I'm just releasing the videos as they go because it's a lot of legwork to get that many people's stuff. And so since I'm using YouTube as a place to release this information, I wanted to make sure and highlight and send people to all of the places that they use on the internet. So what I found was that these amazing, great players would have like, you know, these are the type of people who are on world tours most of the year, and you know they have several albums released where they're releasing it every year. And I find that their internet platforms just aren't very known, and it's not from lack of them being important or them being particularly interesting. It's just a lack of not having the market directed towards them. So in my search of even starting a YouTube channel, I realized that there are YouTube channels with, you know, okay at best trumpet players with like hundreds of thousands of followers. And, you know, somebody who's like won 2 or 3 Grammys would have like 500 followers on their YouTube channel. And like, there's something to say about like the amount of community conversations that we're having and how we're promoting each other, and also just, you know, just like talking about it. Like talking about these people is a step in the right direction. Because if I was talking about them and then 10 other people were talking about it on a channel, they could reach those other hundreds of thousands of people who are following said trumpet player who has several 100,000 followers and subscribers, who, you know, is still working on probably playing like a B major scale or something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like wacky sometimes how that like works, where you know, the I don't know, like viral nature of certain things. It's wacky, but no, you're right. Now, especially more than ever, I think, you know, is the time to be, you know, pointing out all these great musicians that deserve, you know, getting the attention.
Yeah, and you're a great example of that, obviously, because you made a point to do this type of thing on your platform. So like, you know, you're a firsthand example of how this works well. You know, you are bringing in different types of people that you know and that you have relationships with, and you talk about their things. And I think a reason this doesn't happen as much, and I'm glad that you're one of the people who saw it. Like, it's a vision thing, and it's I think the reason that people in the past haven't thought about this is because we are inherently a little bit selfish as musicians, right? We want to like make things about us. It's about me. And the problem with that cycle is, if it's always just about you and no one ever hears it, then it's about you to 10 people, right? But if we're more open to talking about each other and our community, then we can bring people who wouldn't have the opportunity to find us, to bring them to us, or bring it to each other and share. Like it's not like if somebody gets a subscriber that it's their subscriber and they're never going to be your subscriber, or they don't buy your music, they don't follow your pages. You know what I'm saying? So like that innate little bit of selfishness that we have to be great at what we do also kind of seeps into like why it's kind of hard for people to share. But like, once we all realize that the more we talk about each other, the more we spread each other's music, it gets better for all of us.
Yeah, it sure does. It seems like common sense, right?
Yeah, it does.
It sure does. But you know, I'm sure it'll like catch on more and more. But yeah, I think it's a super good thing. So for those trumpet players that are, you know, you're a trumpet player, you're a student. We're all lifelong students, right? So that's everybody. Gosh.
Mm-hmm.
That's everybody. Hopefully everybody, yeah. Unless you got a little bit too much of that, you know, that like self-centered thing, like Ricio was saying. Hopefully, you know, ideally we all realize that we're all students, you know, that never ends. But the trumpet studio, it's super cool. I was looking on there. So Ricio on the trumpet studio has a pretty good range of stuff on there, ranging from like information about mutes, you know, that not only for a young player, to learn about mutes, but also that's a great resource if you're happen to be writing for trumpets, writing for a trumpet section. It's good to know what the mutes are, how they sound. It's beneficial knowledge to everybody. And then there's, Ricio, I saw you have on there like, scale instructional videos and things like that, which I think is really, really good. I really like this idea of also like just the general spread of knowledge, kind of further separated from like capitalism, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes that gets in the way, right? Money can get in the way, but 100%, if you play trumpet, you should check out the Trumpet Studio on YouTube. There's also an Instagram account as well, which is, I believe it's the_trumpet_studio, right?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So originally I had planned to do some word association. I try to do something. I'm like trying to do one thing that's like maybe not so much music, a little bit more fun, but I'm gonna skip over that. We're gonna junk that. We know that you've got a long working relationship with Joe Goldberg. This is right. I had him on the show and he spoke about it, and I know you guys have played together for a while. And I know Joe, you know Joe. People that know Joe know Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you, what is your? This is going to be a segment. We're calling this segment. What's your worst Joe Goldberg gig story? So Ricio, we're going to talk about Joe Goldberg. What's your worst Joe Goldberg gig story?
Oh man. Okay, let's let's dive through to give people perspective. Joe and I have been playing together for I think almost 15 years. Like we were in student groups together at Florida State as well. I was also in groups with John as well. We were in student groups at Florida State. We started a band together at Florida State. So like we worked at B Sharps in that band, and we both moved to New Orleans within a year or two of each other. And we played in our friends Jesse Smith's group together for a long time. We played in Barry Stevenson's group together for a long time. Joe started his own band in New Orleans called Joe Goldberg and the Function, and I've been playing with his band for several years. And also we've been like sidemen together on like projects like like so many. If I had to guess, I'd say we've probably been in like 20 or 30 different playing groups together since we moved to New Orleans. That's just a guess. Joe could probably jump in and be like, it's probably been like 45 or 15, but around that amount. So we've been on the bandstand together a lot. I mean, when you talk about like a working relationship on the bandstand, like Joe Goldberg has been like my work wife, I guess, or work husband, if you want to look at it like that. We played so many gigs together. I mean, hours. And I'm not talking about like 60-minute gigs. I'm not like talking about like you show up, you play 45 minutes and it's over. I'm talking about we play like a 3 or 4 hour block of time with like set breaks. We've done that hundreds of times. So obviously we have lots of crazy stories involved, stuff like me falling asleep and getting called right when the gig is supposed to start. That I'm not going to include that as the crazy story. And Joe forgetting like his part of his clothes. I think he showed up to the gig like there was supposed to be a suit gig and he didn't have on a jacket or something like that. Those types of things when you play gigs for like in volume like we do in New Orleans. A crazy story from me and Joe, myself and Joe. Craziest, worst story that I have with performing with Joe. So here we go. So about 2012, it was 2012. Joe and I were supposed to do a gig together. I think he was the one who got the lead on the gig, and he reached out to myself and someone else to play on the performance, and I was in Michigan, and so I flew in for the gig, and I flew into like Tallahassee too, so like I had never seen, I don't think I had seen the airport until that day, like I just never seen it. So I flew in for the gig, and we're supposed to drive like 12 hours to do the gig, so I'm already like several thousand miles in of travel to do the gig, right? So we drive. So we had to plan like a day for travel to get there. It's regular stuff now, but at that time, I hadn't been on many tours or anything like that. So like that amount of travel was kind of just like for me. So we get to this destination 12 hours away, and we're supposed to play that night. So you know what I'm saying, like you've been on tour for a long time, so like like those type of days are like extremely rough. So we get there, right? And this band we were playing with, it's supposed to be like this high society function, right? And the band leader that's there is like, okay, we're gonna have like this really strict set. It's gonna be crazy. Like everything we're doing is gonna be like by the book. You can't mess up, or we're gonna start docking people's pay. Like, ding, like you crack a note, you lose money. And in addition to that, his co-leader of the band hated him, right? So they have band rituals. One of the band rituals is that before you start the gig, that you'd lose money if you're playing it. You have to take 3 shots. So you have to take 3 shots of alcohol. So we're taking 3 shots of tequila, right? Like mandatory, but you can't mess up. So we like, oh God, this is the dumbest thing we've ever had to do. We have to like play for this intense situation that we could lose money off of 3 shots in. And so we start the gig, and one of the first songs is a trumpet feature for me, right? Oh, sorry. It's a trumpet feature that I do a call. Like in New Orleans, they have trumpet calls before certain songs, right? And one of the songs is called Second Line, right? There's a song called Second Line. That's also a style of music. There's a song called Second Line, and there's a song called Paul Barberin's Second Line. Right? Okay. Not a big deal, right? So 3 shots in, I'm there with Joe. We drove 12 hours to get there, and we can't mess up or we lose money. Good thing the gig was a really high paying gig. I mean, we made so much money that gig. Anyway, so I go up to the front of the stage to do this call for Second Line, right? So this call for Second Line is, I'm sure y'all heard Wynton play that at some point. And then you go into the boom, 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 that song. But in New Orleans, there's another song called Paul Barberin's Second Line. And the only distinction that you'll know is if somebody says Paul Barberin Second Line, which that song is in a different key, has a call, which is in a different key, and it's a different thing. That call is do-do-do-do-do-do. So I go to the front of the stage, 3 shots simmering in my body, just like boiling. I go to the front of the stage, and I go, we're playing Paul Barberin Second Line. I go to the front of the stage, and I go, nobody does anything. I turn around, because you're supposed to go, hey, or there's a snare hit. I turn around, and everybody's looking at me like, I'm like, what? They're like, it's Paul Barberin, bro. And at that time, I didn't know the call or the song. So I'm standing at the front of the stage like, oh God, all right, okay. So what happened is I didn't know that call. So Joe comes up to help me. Like he's like, oh, I know it. He walks up to the, you know Joe. Like Joe like has learned every song.
It's true. Yeah.
So he walks up to help me with the call. So he walks up, but like I said, 3 shots with our heads are buzzing. We're after 12-hour drive, we're losing our mind trying to focus on this gig that's going to be intense. He walks into the stage, and apparently he forgot to button his pants. So he walks to the front of the stage trying to help me.
pantsed himself. He pantsed himself.
I'm telling you, it was crazy. You can't make this stuff up. It was crazy. So like his pants fall down and he doesn't realize it. So me trying to be like a good friend, I'm like, oh God, he's helping me. He's on stage. His pants are falling down. Apparently this is a thing. Is this not a thing for Joe?
No, that's a thing. Yeah.
So he's on stage, pants falling down. He's trying to help me out with the call. And then I'm like, oh God, what do I do? Like when we're on stage in front of like probably 1,000 or 2,000 people, like, do I help him pull his pants up or do I just leave him hanging? So I walked away and he realized it after he played the call and was totally embarrassed. And then we didn't get docked. It was a joke. They weren't serious about that. Like they paid us all our money. But that was what the premise of the gig was, walking into it. And then I missed the call and Joe came to try to help and he showed us all his underwear and something about him in SpongeBob underwear. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't. He's got that weird thing with SpongeBob. I've noticed that. I don't know what it is. I heard he sleeps with a SpongeBob plush. You know, like a big like SpongeBob body pillow.
I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
Weird. Well, since you were so generous to share one of your Joe Goldberg were stories, I have to share one of mine because, of course, Joe went to school with us, and you know I played a few gigs with Joe here and there over the course of our time. So so this is my submission for this segment of worst Joe Goldberg gig experience. All right, so this is probably 2000 and maybe 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. Both of us got hired to be in the horn section for this corporate band. It was a corporate gig, so it was again a really nice, well-paying gig, super well taken care of, or so it seemed at the time, right? And this was through a band that Joe and I had mutual contact with. Like we'd both played gigs with them separately, but this is the first time that we'd worked together in a horn section with this band. Mm-hmm. So we were playing this corporate party, and you know there's like 2,000, 3,000 employees, you know, at this party. And I just want to paint the picture of this band because you know, that the budget was really well for it. So the band was really great. Horn section was great. It was Joe on Barry sax. But I just want to paint the picture correctly. It was a request of the event staff to have the horn players be playing horns that are respective to their heights. So we were also in height order. It sounds super weird. It's like super, you know, who requests that sort of thing? But these people did. You know, the whoever's running this corporate event, right? So we've got, keep that in mind. We're in order of height, and our instruments, you know, match our heights, basically, right? So we've got Joe on Barry sax. I can't remember who was on trombone, but it was someone taller than me. I know that. Myself on soprano saxophone, and then on trumpet, it was Alfonso, and he was playing a pocket trumpet. So I just want you know, everybody to picture that horn section lined up in size order with instruments that match our heights. Just a ridiculous sight to begin with. Who does that? I don't know. But we're playing this first set, and like we're playing Spirit in the Sky, right? And the lead singer, he just stops mid-song, and he like steps back, and he's clutching his gut, right? And like the band's still playing because everybody's, you know, maybe, you know, you don't expect the lead singer to do that, right? And he turns around and just like makes eye contact with like the horn section, and then just lets it fly. I mean, he just explodes both ends. I'm not talking about front and back, right? And then like one after another, you could like watch it go around the stage. Each musician, the same thing, like immensely sick immediately, both ends. It was like super. You don't want to see that, especially not at a corporate party, right? So that was like bad enough, right? But come to find out that the band leader put Joe in charge of writing the contract, right? So he had noticed Joe had been, Joe's a hustler, right? He's always been about, being at the top of the game, booking these gigs, making the work. So this guy recognized that, and to this day, I don't know if this band leader had, good intent or not good intent, but he put Joe in charge of writing the contract, right? And for those that aren't familiar with entertainment contracts, there's this thing at the end called there's a thing called the rider, right? And it's like, I guess in summary, specific requests. There's a lot of things that fall under the rider, but one of them is like specific requests for the break, not the break room, the green room, or the artist area, right? And God bless Joe. He meant to write fresh food, fresh baked goods, toothpaste, and laxative. The lead singer. So the lead singer was addicted to laxative. Again, a weird thing to be addicted to. I don't know who gets addicted to a laxative or how. I don't know what the appeal is there. But that's beside the point. Joe was trying to request the proper things. And the way he worded it ended up with all of those things together. So we had a lot of really nice cakes and stuff. And, no slight against the venue, because they were just following the contract, right?
Yeah.
But all of this stuff, so like I said, toothpaste, toothbrushes, so that we could clean our teeth. Joe was thinking of our dental health. We're musicians, we use our mouth, right? And then the laxative for the band leader. So it all ended up in the cake. And, to be honest, I did think it was a little strange when I found a toothbrush in my slice of cake. Honestly, I just thought it was some weird like king cake thing, I didn't know at the time. It seemed a little strange, but again, in the entertainment industry, things are a little weird. But it turns out, that Joe made a mistake on the contract and the writer, and all of that stuff got baked together, and it made the entire band sick. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is that the band leader, I guess, realized what happened, as he was in mid evacuation, which is why he was looking at the horn section. He was making eye contact with Joe because, of course, he knew that Joe wrote the contract, and I guess he was putting two together. But Joe blamed it on me and offered to fire me. We're both independent contractors, so I don't know how one independent contractor can fire another, right? But he goes out of his way even to tell the lead singer on stage, who knows he wrote this contract, and he blames it on me, and he says, "Hey, I'll fire him right now for you." But that's Joe. That's Joe's. That's ain't that Joe, right?
That's so Joe.
That's so Joe. And just thinking back, I don't think he like wore a belt or buttoned up his pants. He might have been letting his pants slide again. I don't know. I can't really remember that. I remember a lot of details from that because it was just such a sight. All of that.
Yeah.
It was messy, boy.
Ugh,
Well,
yuck.
yeah. Yuck is right. Yuck is right. But thanks for sharing your experience and mine too. That's those stories from our experiences. Those are important. I just noticed the time, so it's 11:22. We're a little over the 45-minute mark, and I think we're gonna try shooting for the hour mark. So we'll like skip into this little closing section. So, Ricio, I'm starting to ask this question because, gosh, let me put it back on me. I'm gonna give an explanation. So I'm gonna ask you the question: if you were given an hour to practice, how would you structure that hour? And the idea behind this question is that as music students, oftentimes we're like told or shown like what to practice, you know, given all the material, but not necessarily shown how to practice or what the most effective way to practice is. So this is just a little way to help those students that you know, may need help structuring their time. So given an hour to practice, how would you structure that time?
That's a great question. my preference for spending just an hour block is to focus on the things that have been the things that transition well into me being the best player on a gig. And so I usually use that as my approach, like how has said things affected me playing on the gig. So I would start off with free buzzing, so like not with the mouthpiece, and transition, and this is maybe like 2 or 3 minutes of each of these, then into buzzing with the mouthpiece, and then transition from the mouthpiece itself, transition like buzzing a note on the mouthpiece into the horn. So like I literally was sliding the horn onto the mouthpiece and trying to keep that airflow and that stream and the sound consistent, transitioning to the horn. And then I would take my tuning slide out, and I would do something similar, trying to start with a G, like a concert F, and play that on just a lead pipe. And I found that starting my focus of playing in that way, no matter how long I have to warm up or how long I have to play, centers me with my airflow and with the use of air and the vibration of my lips inside the mouthpiece. So I usually would go to that for, you know, that usually takes around like 9 to 10 minutes to get done. And I think that's a lot of time if you think about it as like it's just buzzing for 10 minutes. But for me, it focuses so many other elements of playing that it's worth it, right? And the next thing that I like to do is I like to do extended lip slurs or trills, depending on how you want to look at it. And so this one's been like the biggest game changer in my pre-performance prep. And so I'll make sure and do this anytime I want to get centered and like make sure my range is available. And that's something I'll talk about when we do our final thoughts, but my range is available. And so I'll basically do a slur from concert D to concert F as fast as I can with control. So like or a little bit slower than that. And I'll do it until I run out of air. Like I'll literally start playing until like I'm like and so I'll do that in each of the 7 partials. So I'll go down and hit all the partials with that same approach. And I promise you, there's something about making yourself do a fast lip slur in the style of a long tone in that part of the horn that opens up the entirety of the horn. I found throughout my early years of playing, I would start with a low concert B flat all the time, every day, a low B flat. And I realized that was a bad starting point for a person who has never been really paid to play a low B flat. So I transitioned most of the things I do to be in the center of the horn, and usually view like the low B flat as the lowest note kind of the day. And so I'll spend about that takes about 12 minutes. And so we're looking at a good chunk of the time gone. However, for me, those are like some of the pillars of me being a successful trumpet player, right? So the next thing I transition into is a range opening exercise. And what I do with that one is I'll start, and I actually got this from A.T. Charles, my trumpet teacher at Michigan State. I'll play 1, 3, 5 of the scale in slurs, and then down to the lowest, not the lowest, but a very low concert F. So like almost a pedal tone, but not really. So I'm like doing like the extremities of the horn down to low note. And I'll do that until I get to the highest note I have available that day. So that could take some time. if I'm really trying to focus, or if I do it quickly right before a performance, that varies the amount of time it would take. However, and I'll refer to this in the final thoughts, it's been a huge part of me changing how I can play the instrument itself. And I'll dive into that more hopefully in the final thoughts. But playing the extremity of the horn every day as if it's your bag of tools for the day has been important, because like that's the only way I found to like grow. And you knew me back in the day. Like I was the third trumpet player, the fourth trumpet player. You know, I very rarely played like lead or second. You know what I'm saying? And like it's because I just didn't approach the horn that way. And so that's a pivotal part of my my approach to practicing, especially if I only have an hour. So we've covered like lots of slurring, right, and lots of expansion of like the extremity of the horn, pillars of my playing, and then I would spend maybe about 10 minutes doing some tonguing exercises. And so I probably will spend one day of doing single tonguing, and then another day doing multiple tonguing as my 10-minute focus of tonguing, right? And then I want to say this to all of the trumpet players in the world, especially the younger ones, is I would spend the last 10 or 15 minutes like playing, like singing through your horn. And when I say singing, I don't necessarily mean like, hey, let me play over this tune and outline changes. I mean literally try to connect your voice, like what you sing, to what you can get out of the horn. Because I find that as instrumentalists, there's sometimes a disconnect between what we hear and what we can produce. And so I would spend that time. You can do that with tunes. You can do that with emulating somebody's transcription, but like spend the last 10 to 15 minutes of just trying to explore and using your tools in a way that you would use them in the real world. Just to start like start rambling on your horn and see how that goes for about 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, I like all those ideas. That's I'm also a big like into that idea of singing on the horn and like incorporating that into practice, because you got to practice it,
Yeah.
and because you're not gonna, how can you perfect it, and how can you expect that in your own playing if you're not working on it?
Yep.
Those are great things. If you could give 3 tips to a young player, what would those 3 tips be?
All right. Number 1, I would say listen to the music that is compelling to you, right? I don't care what genre that is. Listen to the music that that makes you feel like the best human that you can be, and how that affects your personality, right? The music that you find affects you the most, make your voice on the trumpet that. So, establish what you love as a person, then follow what you love then direct your practice towards what you love, which you already sonically and vibrate with that music. So like find your voice in that music. Not to say that you shouldn't be studying and learning different elements of jazz or Black American music, but that you make it a priority that at the end of the day you're playing the stuff that you like to play, that you like to hear, that makes your human spirit work. You know what I'm saying? And it's very important that you learn the tools and tricks of outlining changes in the jazz or the band world. However, you need to know that at some point you're going to be most effective with what you have to say with what you love. So that'd be number 1. Number 2, wherever you are now in life, if you haven't made this a decided point, start the process of being who you want to be when you get out of school, or when you get out of college, or when you get out of a pandemic. So the process is what's going to define who you are, right? When you get to the end of any of those pillars, like graduating from high school, graduating from college, or graduating from graduate studies, when you finish that process, the next things you do can't start there, right? So when you are going to, if your plan is to move to New York at some point, right? If you're in undergrad, make trips to New York every summer. Meet the people who are on the scene. Go sit in at the clubs that you want to play in. If you want to move to LA, similar things. Like start the process that you want of the lifestyle you want to have. Start it while you're in school, or start it at the phase that you're at in life now. If you want part of your internet business to be part of your business as a musician to be on the internet, start it now, or start the process now. And I say that the business because this is a part of like this start the process thing. What we don't hear about in school is that we are all individual businesses, like John mentioned earlier. So start your business. View everything you do as a business. You are a small business, and you are all the things that come along with that: taxes and loans and audits. All that stuff are a part of what your business is. It just so happens to be connected to the thing you love so much. Start the process. Start learning all that stuff now and implementing parts of it now. It's not just about playing your horn and like as soon as you graduate and you get that piece of paper or they mail you a piece of paper, you're gonna look around and be like, now what? And if you don't know what that idea or haven't started that trajectory, like you're gonna be in a interesting place. I'll say that, an interesting place when it comes to being a professional musician. And number 3, this is the part I said I want to chime back in. This is kind of in the realm of final thoughts, but something I want to push as an important part of what my message is for people, and that's play the entirety of your instrument every day. It is all too often that we are taught in school, especially by people who are not brass musicians, to start by playing the same note every day. Play a low C every day to start your day, or play a G in the staff. If you start every time that you play the horn with a specific thing, then you're going to be limited by whatever that specific thing is. So what I want to encourage is that you play the highest note you have possible, play the fastest thing you can play the loudest thing you can play the softest thing you can play every day, so that you get in the habit of having that as an extension of the tools you have available. And here is my quick testimonial, is that I was considered the 3rd and 4th trumpet player or whatever, and that was my section or my role in sections for a long time, because I did those things all the time. I played 3rd and 4th trumpet. 3rd and 4th trumpet is a certain range of the instrument in big band. So you play a certain part of the horn all the time. So like, even if you practice an extra hour or 2 a day, like those reps in that lower part of the horn are always going to be making your physicality work in that way. You're going to mold your embouchure, you're going to mold your airflow to being the type of person who plays all the time. And here's an example of how I had to make an adjustment for that when I was recording a mixtape. I was going through, I think I did like 4 takes of Tom Brown's Boat Dog. And I was always like, okay, well, I'll play the melody and I'll make sure that's cool. And I'll just kind of like play a solo so people I'll play a solo that's okay enough for a scratch take. And then I'll come back in and lay down a good solo. And midway through that process, I was like, wow, I'm really limiting what my mind can conceive as creation by the fact that I want to save my chops or something like that. And I was like, why? I'm in the studio, I'm paying for the studio time. I want to play as much stuff as I want, as crazy as I want, and then I could take it out, not though they were around. So I had to pump myself up to go into the situation and play as high a note as I could possibly think of, or sing as high a note as I think I could. And I had been training myself on gigs to make sure that each gig I play a note that's above X note on the stat. I think my note was I make sure I play a note above the high concert D or RE. So each time I'm on a gig, I want to make sure to do that. So all these reps over the years, and I'm proud to say that I had a couple of killing high notes that came out on that recording, because I actually saw myself being free to play what I want, not being confined by my thoughts of what I should be doing. And that was a part of that process. So if I hadn't been training myself to play the entirety of horn every day and expand my imagination of what sounds I can produce, I wouldn't have thought to just release myself. And I did that. I did that in 1 take. That was I did 3 takes of the solo, but that was 1 entire take. And I know haven't been a part of the recording process, a lot of people patch together solos, and so they'll have 13 takes that are splice this part, put it here, splice this part, put it here, you know what I'm saying? So that's a part of the scene, but I felt good freeing myself in that moment to do that. So I encourage you every day, play the entirety of the horn, play the entire spectrum of it Yes, use the books to get some of the core things done. Like use Arbans and irons. Use that stuff to get the core part of it, and then you have to like let yourself free to get out all of these expressive things you want to be an artistic, creative musician.
Yeah, man. Get it out of the way now, so you can make music when it comes time to actually making music. I love it, and it's true. You know, do it now, so you're not stuck doing it. You know, when the time is important for you to make your music. That's a good message.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. All right, we're gonna close out here. Once again, Ricio Fruge is my guest. Thank you so much, Ricio, for joining me. Ricio has, again, the YouTube channel, The Trumpet Studio. Learn from a Pro with Ricio. You can search for The Trumpet Studio or Ricio's name on YouTube. You can find that. If you want to give support to The Trumpet Studio, there's a Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/The Trumpet Studio, all one word. And then, of course, you can find The Trumpet Studio on Instagram at @the_trumpet_studio. And you can find Ricio as well if you want to go follow his personal account, Ricio Music. Is it Ricio_music?
Underscore, yeah.
Ricio_music. That one's real important. Got to get the underscore in there. But yeah, thank you again, Ricio, for getting up this morning and joining me for breakfast and talking about a bunch of random stuff that is it's good to talk about.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, and thanks for doing this. It's a great a great platform that you've created. And I wouldn't be me without saying that. Make sure if you have watched this or you're exposed to John's Saturday morning breakfast, that you go and actually follow and subscribe to his other channels. He has a YouTube page. He has a Patreon. Please make sure, just because you know one facet of who he is on the internet, don't limit your idea of who he is there. Like, find all of the other places that he's in. Like, if you search for things on the internet that are about music, type his name in. You'll also find him there too and support him there too.
Thanks, Ricio. Thanks for that. Yeah, search me up. I'm all over the place. Thanks, Ricio. Once again, Saturday morning breakfast, just like the Trumpet Studio, is in conjunction with a Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/my name, John Olenek. If you can't spell it, then I don't know how you end up here. Actually, I'm sure a lot of people can't spell it even if they're watching. I can't spell it half the time. But look up the spelling. I'm on social media. You got it. Thank you again, Ricio, one more time. I'm sure I'll ask you to be back and have you another time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your stories, and sharing a meal with me digitally.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to let everybody get back to their weekend. Have a safe weekend. Use your time wisely, everybody. Expand your knowledge as you should be doing every day. And I'll catch you next week. Next week, my guest is actually Ricio's wife, Emily. So we'll have Emily next week. She's a fantastic trombone player, really great composer, arranger. We're going to be taking a look and talking about arranging and just individuality in arranging. We're going to be talking about a lot next week, but join in same time next week. We're going to have Emily on, and thank you, Ricio, one more time. Thank you, and yeah, thank you, everybody, and have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.